Today I'm going to talk about my favorite game mechanism in a game that I haven't played yet, and I rarely do this, but I'm fascinated by this game, and I'm fascinated by this mechanism, and I think I understand it pretty well from watching reviews of it. The game in question is Super Mario Odyssey, and in this game, one of the core mechanisms, this is a video game, obviously, this is a Mario video game, one of the core mechanisms is that Mario can throw his hat at not anybody, but many of the living entities, the living creatures in the game that he encounters. He can throw his hat at them and temporarily take over their body and use it in a variety of ways. He can use it to, from the videos I've seen, he can use it for a ton of different ways. Like he can make him swim better, run faster, jump higher, all these different things that he can do while occupying another creature. And I guess I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know what the game considers spoilers or not, but the variety of things that you can temporarily take over is staggering. It's incredible. I think this is a fascinating mechanism, and I have a few reasons why I think it's fascinating, and I'll kind of try to apply these to board games. One of the top things that I find fascinating about this is that it allows you to have a variety of powers without being overpowered. So in like a campaign board game, you might acquire more and more equipment, more and more abilities, you might level up and things like that. And it's just this massive stuff that you have that makes the game, it gives the game designer all these challenges of scaling, because your abilities and your capabilities in game 1 might be vastly different in game 5 or 10 or 20 of this game as you accumulate all this stuff. This ability gives you that variety of having all this stuff, this super-powered stuff, but because you can only have one at a time and you can only use it circumstantially, like while you encounter this creature, it limits that from being overpowered. That, I think, is probably the #1 clever thing about this mechanism. It gives you the feeling of variety, it gives you the feeling of collecting all these different things, these different abilities, even though you can only use them circumstantially. Love that. 2, just the idea of discovery. At the beginning of the game, you only have your own core Mario abilities, but throughout the game, you're seeing all these other abilities that you can have. And there's that moment, I'm guessing, again, I haven't played, I'm guessing there's that moment of when you throw your hat at something, A, you discover that you can actually take it over, and B, you discover what you can do with that creature that I think is really, really cool. Problem solving. I think it's really interesting in the game when you encounter a problem that seems impossible, and then you look around and see, okay, this is how I can address this problem. And in this game, one of those ways is to take over a creature. So I'm guessing there are parts of Mario Odyssey where you encounter something that you alone as Mario cannot solve, cannot do, cannot achieve, cannot get over, climb up, swim down, and then you see a creature that is really good at that thing, and you take it over and you solve that problem. I love that. I have found as a tabletop gamer that I don't really enjoy games where I'm just fighting stuff the whole game. This is one of the reasons why I love time stories, because time stories always gives me more options just to fight. It's one of the reasons I love Seventh Continent. You have the option to fight, but there are always other options that you can choose from. You can talk to the creature, you can walk away, you can do all this other stuff. And so I love in Super Mario Odyssey that there's this core mechanism that's saying, hey, instead of fighting that mushroom, throw your hat at it, take it over for a few minutes, and then walk away from it. I really think that's cool. And lastly, I think in campaign games in particular, but maybe any board game, where you start out with a core character, I think it's important for players to feel emotionally connected to that core character. And that's why we see so many games where you have that core character and then you add on equipment and new abilities, but you stick with that core character because that's the character you connect to. And I think, so I think that's a good thing. But I think Mario Odyssey does that really well because yes, you're connected to Mario, but you're allowed to experience all these other characters temporarily while retaining that core connection to Mario. And I think that is something that could be applied really, really well to tabletop games. If you do have that core character, but within the circumstances of a certain environment or a task, a mission, or even a single session, you might take over another character's body or an enemy's body and play through that body for that one game while still having that connection to your character. The one thing that I think is maybe the one downside of this mechanism that I think could be fixed in a tabletop game is that there are rarely consequences for taking over the body of another creature temporarily. Like, say you're faced with a big monster all of a sudden, instead of dealing with that, instead of fighting it, say in Mario, as you might often do, you throw your cap at it, and suddenly the danger is gone, and there are no consequences for you to having done that. So I think it might require a cost to be able to do it in a tabletop game. It might mean that if you're taking over someone else's body, then your original body is taken over by them or somehow becomes antagonistic to you. I think there needs to be some level of consequence so that it is a choice and that it's not an instant, okay, I will do this thing to avoid any other trouble immediately, and I will always do that. I'd love your thoughts on that in particular, actually. If you have any ideas about that, how you can add consequences to this mechanism, I'd love to hear about that. Of course, if you've played Super Mario Odyssey, I'd love to hear about how you feel about this mechanism, if I've described anything inaccurately about it, or if I have understated any of the joys that you found with this mechanism. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks.